Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the RoyalVision podcast. My name is Joe Fitzhenry. I'm the Sports Information Director here at the University of Scranton, and today I'm joined by
Christopher Crapanzano, men's lacrosse senior, number 8, finance major here at the U.
Christopher. I want to talk about a couple of different experiences that you were able to have this summer. First, let's start with the Box League and your experience kind of playing with the Connecticut Revolution.
Yeah, so U.S. Box LA is the sanctioned league that Connecticut Revolution is out of. And there's about 4 to 5 regions currently: Colorado, California, upstate. There's a New Jersey league coming, and there's a Connecticut league. The Connecticut league is a little bit more, over the years, it's been going a few more years than the New Jersey league, so I decided to make the trip out to Connecticut every week, 2 times a week. And I knew the guy who ran the league, and it was just it's a really good thing to take part of. It makes the game much more fun, and I just love box lacrosse.
Okay. Cool. That's awesome. And like you said, a great way to spend your summer. Certainly some dedication involved there as well, making the trek to Connecticut twice a week. And then later in the summer here, about a month ago, you had a chance to represent Team Poland at the U21 World Championships over at the University of Limerick in Ireland. And first, let's just start with how did that whole chance come about to represent Team Poland?
Well, my mother was born in Poland, so when I was born, I was given the opportunity to have dual citizenship, so my mom gave that to me. So I have a Polish passport and a United States passport. And so when you play a part of another nation's team, you have to have some sort of citizenship in order to compete in world games. So I have the Polish citizenship, so I was enabled to be able to play part of the Polish lacrosse team. So a couple years back, I reached out to the Polish Federation Lacrosse, and they reached back out to me, and I went to a few of the local tournaments they had in the States with the Heritage team. And then from there, I kind of just took off. I knew that there was some World Lacrosse tournaments coming up. Reached out to the coach for the U21s because of COVID. Originally, was supposed to be part of the U19 tournament 2 years ago, but they pushed it to U21. And with some age differences, because of COVID, they made some more flexibility with who was allowed and who's not allowed. Because I was already 21 this summer, but they gave some flexibility. And so I was able to play this past summer in Ireland for Team Poland U21.
So kind of take us through like a day-by-day type experience, kind of being a part of the tournament, like when you first get there and obviously kind of competing in the games and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went in for 2 weeks into Ireland. So I came back from California from the Nationals for box, came back for a day to the States, and then the day later I flew out to Ireland for 2 weeks. So I was kind of going on an 8-hour lag, the 3 hours from California back to the East Coast, and then another 5 hours out to Ireland. It was just an insane experience. My body was on the biggest jet lag I've ever experienced. But yeah, so I went out to Ireland. We got there on the 7th or the 8th, I believe, and the Polish team didn't come in until another 2 days after the opening ceremonies because of other reasons. But I ended up meeting up with them on the first day of our first game, and we ended up playing China on the opener. And it was just an unbelievable experience. Every day we would wake up, have team stretches early in the morning, and then we would have team breakfast, and then we would have more team meeting, some downtime, and then depending on what time our game was, we'd either go watch other teams play who were in our group, or we would just relax, have some time outside of the campus, or just roam around the local area because Limerick was just an awesome place to be.
I was going to ask you kind of more about Limerick. I know obviously a big part of the tournament there was about lacrosse, but did you get to do any cool sightseeing stuff in Limerick as well?
I went throughout the main city of Limerick. I went through downtown and that whole area, and it was just, me personally, that's all where I was able to go. But I know a bunch more of my team members on their free time, they were able to go more to like the Cliffs of Moher, as well as other little nice sightseeing places along the coast of Ireland, which I saw pictures, and my mom went there as well, and it just looked beautiful. I unfortunately never got the opportunity to do so because I was so busy, but it was just a great experience, and to see some of the sightseeing and the history in that town was just unbelievable. How much, like the historical castles in the city of Limerick, was just unbelievable to see.
Right. No, that's awesome. And like you said, that's a kind of a once-in-a-lifetime experience type thing. So did you live in the dorms at the University of Limerick?
Yeah, so what they did was, a part of the tournament, they dormed each team into the specific dorms, saying for each person. So we were like kind of the dorms over there are much more different than the dorms here at the University of Scranton. They have like little cottage setups, and they look like miniature houses, and there's 2 floors, and you have about, say, 8 guys or 7 or 8 guys to each little house, and so like 2 or 3 houses, 4 houses were sanctioned to each team, and it was just sprawled across the entire campus, and it was just unbelievable because the campus was huge, the grounds were phenomenal. It was just a great venue for this tournament, for the U21 tournament. Long time waiting after all this COVID stuff, but they really hit the nail on the head on executing everything they had to do for this tournament.
That's great. So I got to ask, before you played for Team Poland, were you at all familiar with anyone on the team that you played with, or was it kind of just going in blind that first day when you met up with them?
Social media is a pretty cool thing, and like I said, I did play a few tournaments in the States, and like with the local heritage teams, and like myself, there's actually a few other kids along the East Coast, a Canadian kid as well who was a part of our team, who have that Polish heritage. They may not have a Polish passport like myself, but they have enough heritage where they are able to play for the national team like myself. And so I had an idea for a few of the kids because I played with them here in the States. But as for some of the other kids, a majority of the team was actually all native Poland, and only a handful of them had good English, like good speaking English, where they could have conversations with us. So I mean, I know a little bit of Polish. Growing up, I went to Polish school, so I had a little bit of the tongue in me to be able to talk and communicate with them. So that was pretty cool too. But no, going in, I wasn't blind, but I'm also very open. And the cool thing about lacrosse is we have that biggest thing in common. We all play lacrosse. So no matter us knowing the same language or not, we have the biggest thing in common is we could be able to play catch with a lacrosse ball and a lacrosse stick. And that's the biggest thing we bonded off of. So we may not have known each other personally. We may not have been able to speak as much together with some of the kids. But we had the big thing in common is we could have a lacrosse catch, and we knew each other's name, and we could just laugh and have a good time. And that was the biggest thing part of it.
And like you said, you kind of have the built-in like common interest right there.
Absolutely,
because you've all played lacrosse. Whereas, okay, if you go to different schools, you're from different countries,
yeah,
whatnot. But at the same time, like you still have that shared bond, so you can start a conversation right away.
Absolutely. It was just the friendship and the camaraderie amongst our team from day one was just, it was there and it was noticed, and we meshed so perfectly. And no matter the outcome of the game, the game is still growing, a part of the Polish Federation and the Polish nation. It's still growing so much, and there's such a bright future for it. Despite the outcomes and despite what happened, we meshed as a team, and we didn't get on each other. We always built each other up, and that was just the best thing, a part of it. And it was from day one. It didn't matter that we didn't really know each other that well. By the end of it, we had 24, 25 brothers. And that's all that really matters.
So have you been able to stay in touch with some of your teammates?
Absolutely. Like I said, social media is a phenomenal thing. We all followed a bunch of each other on Instagram, Facebook, what have you. And, we're keeping in touch. And I think that's going to be the greatest thing, because I'm sure I'm going to be seeing those guys down the line. Like next summer is supposed to be the adult World Championships, and I've been invited back to go participate in that for the Team Poland as well.
That's awesome.
So.
Do you know where those will be next summer?
San Diego.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Hey, it's good weather, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I plan on hopefully heading back out to California next summer for box again for the Nationals, as well as staying in that area for the World's Men's Lacrosse Championships as well. So a lot of lacrosse in my future and a lot of California.
That's what we like to hear, and I can promise the weather in San Diego is a little bit nicer than it is in Scranton today.
It's a little rainy today, but hey, that's what you get when you come to Scranton, right?
So I guess kind of when you look back at the whole experience of competing at the U21 Worlds for Team Poland, what are kind of some of the things that you could take back here with you to Scranton?
The idea of not taking things for granted. That's the biggest thing. Lacrosse, when I was growing up, I never thought I would be able to say that I had the opportunity to play the game of lacrosse against some of the kids that I played against or just played alongside. Some of the countries that were there are less fortunate countries than the country that we live in. To be able to see the game of lacrosse grow to the length of seeing certain African countries be able to be playing the game that we all love so much, I never thought I'd be able to say that I can share the game that I love with some kids who barely came from anything. That's just one of the best things. So the biggest thing, honestly, that I took away from this is an unbelievable experience, but to most certainly not take for granted what I have. Right. Sometimes we wake up one day and we're having a bad day. This changed my perspective on so many things. To see the smile on some of these kids' faces from certain countries that literally came from almost nothing, it's just that's definitely one of the biggest key takeaways from this whole thing. It's that. So that's definitely that.
That's really cool, and that's a great answer, because I think personally, sports can provide so many opportunities for kids, and it allow you to grow so much. And like you said, you have that shared common interest, and you get to share the same game with some people that maybe didn't grow up as fortunate, what have you, and so you get the chance to do that through sports.
Absolutely.
Which is still a pretty cool thing at the end of the day. So I know we've kind of focused so far a lot on the U21 Team Poland experience. I want to ask you about, so you were a transfer to the University of Scranton from St. Joseph's
Yes,
University.
sir. Yeah.
What kind of drew you to Scranton initially, and what made you want to come here?
I knew a few of the guys on the team. They were local to my town back in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. At the time they were rising seniors and I was a rising sophomore, and I had some knowledge on them, and I knew the potential of this program. And it was that time during COVID. Certain things weren't falling as I really thought they would. And I'm a big believer in faith and the way things fall and the way things are kind of going in what direction. And I kind of just trusted my gut, and I kind of just, I said, I'm going to give this a go. And I was familiar with Coach Hoffmeister here, and I was familiar with some of the guys, and Coach Hoff really helped me out. It was like a week into school already, and there were some complications, and I was not enrolled at a school anymore. I reached out to Coach Hoff and a few other schools that were actually interested in me, that I remember reaching out to me. And Coach Hoff was the first one that reached back, and he was more than thrilled to take me a part of his team. And it was almost as if like that was a gift from God. And I really believe in that. And so that's kind of how it all came about. Because the whole summer I had my eyes set on another path, and unfortunately, a week before taking forth on that path, things derailed, and I had nowhere to go to school. And most of the schools were starting up earlier that summer because it was the return from the cutoff year because of COVID. So kids were going back earlier, so before Thanksgiving break, they wouldn't go back because of all the traveling issues because of COVID still, no vaccines or whatever, and all that stuff was available yet. So they didn't want any of the COVID passing around. So kids were going back early. So school was starting early. I had nowhere to go. I reached out to a few schools. Coach Hoffmeister was kind of the answer to all my prayers for getting to be able to go to school my sophomore year. And that's kind of how it all started, and that's how I became a Royal. And there was no looking back. I'm so happy to be here.
That's a heck of a story. So a couple now rapid-fire questions towards the end. All right, what is your favorite memory as a member of the men's lacrosse program so far?
So far, I'm probably going to say our win against Eastern. I got really sick that week. I was in the hospital for a day, and I was out of commission pretty much for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And it was this last spring break, and we didn't have much lacrosse going on, so I went home, and I was in bed rest for a week and a half. We come back. 2 days, I barely had – I was recovering, so I never got a chance to take a break. So I was recovering, so catching myself up to what I was before I got sick. And I was kind of worn down because we're playing constant lacrosse. And I came back, and it was the first Wednesday game, and we came back. We started school on Monday, so I had 2 days to kind of recuperate a little bit. And I went out there, and I put 4 in the back of the net, and we won in overtime. And we were down 3 goals, less than 2 minutes to go. And it was just an unbelievable feeling. And like I said, I'm a big believer in faith and I'm a big believer in God, and I was just asking for all the strength possible before that game. And I did not want my health that had all the bad health that I had before going into that game, the 2 weeks before that it would slow me down, and it didn't slow me down. And that was probably one of the best experiences ever here.
And then do you have any pregame rituals that you have to do before every game?
Absolutely, yeah. I wear 2 pairs of socks before every game. I wear an ankle sock, and then I wear a high sock over them. I wear the same exact high socks. I've worn the same high socks over my ankle socks to each game since my sophomore year here, or since my freshman year of college.
Yeah.
And then I always say a prayer before the games. That's always a big thing. Right. And I always go into the locker room, into the bathroom before each game, and I soak my hair back, and I just look at myself in the mirror, and I kind of just tell myself that I gotta strap up and get ready to take everything that comes at me. So that's kind of my rituals I got.
All right. Yeah. I like that one. I like the socks thing. Like you said, you stick with it after freshman year, then you kind of got to keep going with it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It means you got to do it again this year.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And what's your favorite food spot on campus at Scranton?
Favorite food spot? I like Einstein's. Einstein's Bagels is good. I like the bagels they have, the variety of options. And I don't really get to go in that building a lot because that's like a science building. So whenever I have the opportunity to step into a building that's not a business building, it's kind of cool.
So the funny thing is, one of my student workers had hyped up Einstein's to me this summer.
Yeah.
I've worked here 3 years. I've never gone there for food.
No, you should definitely try it out.
But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by the breakfast sandwiches. It seems like it's got a good menu.
Oh yeah,
it's
fresh. It seems kind of like it's fresh. It's kind of just different. I don't know, where I come from, New Jersey, we love our bagels, and we take pride in having some of the best bagels. So I mean, it's not as good as Jersey bagels, but they're pretty good.
So is it? Do you call it pork roll or Taylor ham?
I would say Taylor ham. Yeah, I'd say Taylor ham. I'm not a pork roll guy.
Fair. All right. Well, Christopher, hey, thanks so much for joining us today on the inaugural episode of the RoyalVision podcast. Really appreciate the insights you gave us and kind of sharing more about your experiences at the U21 World Championships, and best of luck moving forward.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and go Royals.
Love it. Go Royals.